Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're back in War Thunder and we're looking at the Su-6 AM-42. Now this is the new Russian attacker that was added to the game in update 1.71. It sits at Battle Racing 5.0 at rank 4. So at rank 4 at 5.0 it's pretty low, but then again you look at stuff like the Yak-9U being at 4.3 for the Russians, so it kind of makes sense. This follows a line of attackers that the Russians have got in the IL-10s and the other Su-6, and the only real difference between the Su-6, well, both Su-6s I suppose, is their engine. And also, what is kind of interesting from the Su-6 AM-42's point of view is you can actually get a modification which allows you to install 23mm. Now, it does only allow you to install 2 of them with 240 rounds of ammunition, and I don't really know why you would do this, to be quite honest. It's the same 23mm you will find on the first IL-10, which are definitely worse than the IL-10 1946 in my opinion. Now, after talking to Tazzy doesn't like the 1946 ones and prefers the ones which you will find on the AM-42, so there's definitely a difference of opinion there, but the fact that you can change them out is kind of cool. But overall, it doesn't really give you any different advantage. Basically, what you end up with is, instead of the 37s, which can kill the majority of ground targets all over the place, you just change them out for 23mm, which I suppose are better at killing aircraft. But overall, an attacker's job, especially the Su-6, is not going to be going after aircraft. If you want to do something like that, you would always pick something like the IL-10 1946, which has a hell of a lot more destructive power in a head-on sense, which is where you're mainly going to face these guys. It also has a 7.62 chace in the back of it. What is kind of an issue with this chace is that it only has ammo belts up to 196 rounds, which really isn't quite a lot, but it does have the first-person view, which is always nice to see. Now, the reason why I picked this plane to review is because I didn't actually do a review on the Su-6, and because these two are fundamentally the same thing, the only real difference is the Su-6 has a better engine, but just slightly better, may I add. Overall, if you have experience with the Su-6 M71F, you will have experience with the AM-42. They play exactly the same way, you're going to be doing exactly the same stuff. What is kind of nice about both of them is the fact that you have access to some very interesting rockets. In update 1.71 we had a lot of different bombs and rockets added to the game. A lot of people are focused on the rockets that you get for some of the later tier Russian jets, but for the AM-42 you also get these RBS 132s, and you get 10 of them that you can carry. These are large rockets which have an armor-piercing head on them, meaning that you are able to penetrate tanks from a great distance, and also because they fly so true, unlike some of the other rockets in-game, because they're quite large, being accurate is incredibly easy with them. This means if you feel like it, you can take out easily 5 light pillboxes if you're confident in your accuracy, and if not, you're looking at 3 or 2 light pillboxes. And then on top of that, you can use your 37mm. It takes approximately 3 or 4 shots to take out a light pillbox, and approximately, depending on the range, it will take 2 bursts to kill a medium tank. If you are close though, it will only take 1 from the side or the rear. So therefore you have a lot of power when it comes to taking out the targets, such as medium tanks, light tanks, armored cars, light pillboxes. I haven't tested it on pillboxes, but I'm pretty sure the rockets will kill them, and also the 37s will at a close range. What is also useful is a lot of the maps that you will find yourself on in Russia actually have landing craft and stuff like that on, and with the 37s, you're able to kill these landing craft with absolute ease. You can even use the rockets and bombs if you feel like on ground bases, but generally that's not a great idea. If you get matched up with some B-25s though, B-25s with their maximum loadout will not fully kill a base, and if you are near the vicinity while the base is being bombed, you can fire 4 rockets at it and it will kill the base off, so giving the B-25 some help and also giving you some points as well. What is nice from the point of view of grinding with the Su-6 AM-42 getting its modifications is from the get-go you start off with 16 25M bombs or 6 50s. Now, both of these bombs, as long as you're accurate with them, can take out light pillboxes, can take out tanks. From a personal point of view, I like the 1625s just because you have more bomb load, so if you want to go after a base, you're going to do more damage to it. And being able to get the other bomb loads, such as the 100 kilos and the 250s, is very simple to do since it's a rank 1 modification. But I think where this thing comes into its own is in the rockets department. After you've got all of the modifications, I find it very hard to justify taking any of the bomb loads over the RBS 132 x 10s or the RSs if you want to go after aircraft, which, you know, generally is a bad idea. You can also get 10 of these smaller rockets with some of these smaller bomb loads, so you can take the RBS 82s, 10 of them, with some 25 kilogram bombs, 16 of them. So if you want the most power, you're probably looking at something like that, but you're going to have to be incredibly accurate with that, so therefore using the larger rockets and taking the 10 of them I think is a good idea. So from a gameplay perspective, the Su-6 plays a very pivotal role in aerialistic if you let it. If there is 1 or 2 on a Russian team, they will mop up a lot of light pillboxes, a lot of medium tanks, going after the harder targets, which a lot of attackers really struggle with. Looking at the IL-10s here, the Brigand, if you want to label that as an attacker, the AD-2, the A-26s, all of these aircraft struggle with stuff like heavy tanks and pillboxes if they have run out of bombs. So the Su-6 with its 37mm, the fact that it has 90 rounds of ammo, it means that you can easily clean up 10 or 20 targets in a match. So if you leave these things to their devices, give them about 10 or 15 minutes in a match, and just focus solely on the fighters of the enemy team, you may find yourself in a position where you have such a small ticket counter and such a large ticket bleed from all of the stuff they've killed, you're going to lose the match anyway. Now this is really shown on a map like Normandy, where on Normandy, the general match itself only lasts about 10, 12, 15 minutes because of the enemy AI and the allied AI running into each other. If you throw a few Su-6s into the mix, what they're going to do is they're going to tilt it so far in that team's favor that the match is going to be over in 8 to 10 minutes, and the Su-6 runs away with about 10 medium tank or light pillbox kills. It is an absolute monster on maps like that. So therefore, when looking at attackers, if you have like an IL-10 or you see an IL-10 on the enemy team or an A-26, generally you can leave them alone, deal with the fighters, and then go after those attackers, because they will deal with a lot of soft targets, but they won't be able to deal with a lot of the heavy ones. You can't do that with the Su-6. You've got to make sure that it's put in the ground, that in a way you basically destroy it before it is able to rack up those 5 to 10 kills, which are going to sway the ticket bleed in their favor. Because then the Russian team, all they have to do is have one guy left, and he just walks around the place and, you know, doesn't really have to do anything. Therefore, you can make it so it's an easy win. Now, obviously, the Su-6 can't really defend itself. If you run the 37s on it, it doesn't really have great power moving forward. The 37mm, if you don't control them properly, will just spread shots all over the place. And the 7.62 in the back, even though it is rapid fire, it doesn't have a lot of ammo, and also it is quite constricted. There is definitely a bug with the 7.62 though. If you go in first person mode, you can shoot through the bottom of the turret, the bottom of the rudder, sorry, which is kind of weird, but I don't know if the shots go through or not, because I can't obviously see past it in first person mode, but it seems like there shouldn't be a zone there where you can shoot. So yeah, there's that is definitely an issue with the plane in itself. It does get an air spawn, meaning that getting to the target is generally something you'll be able to do. The only map I struggled with getting to the target is El Alamein, one of the newer maps, because the defensive side spawns closer to the battlefield than you do. Therefore, what happens is that they get to the ground targets first. Generally, because you're at 5-0, you'll run into wyverns, and they'll be able to mop you up very easily. So therefore, taking different paths to the battlefield, maybe just waiting 5 minutes around the airfield and then pushing forward, can be something that is highly beneficial to you. In ground forces, the Su-6, with its 37mm and the rockets involved, can easily pop tanks. The 37mm, if you get armored target belts, it means that you have 90 rounds of APT armor-piercing tracer shell, which is able to penetrate 60mm at 90 degrees, and even from 1000 it can pen at 33mm, which generally the tanks, the top of the tanks, which you will be fighting, do not have that much armor on top of them. So therefore, the Su-6 AM-42 and of course the Su-6 M71 can be a really nice thing to pick up if you're running something like a 5-3 lineup for the Russians, and there is quite a there's a very good 5-3 lineup for the Russians. The T-3485 D5T, the IS-1, and either the ZSU-37 or the Type 65. And if you want to change out some of those, you got the PT-76B, which is a very competent tank with its heat FS, the ISU-152 if you want to try and donk on some fools, or the Su-85M, which is a really fun tank destroyer with the 85 on it, which does a lot of damage. So you can craft a really good 5-3 lineup, meaning that taking either of these planes is very much feasible, and running them with maybe an LA-7B if you want to try and establish air superiority. What is also nice is the fact that you don't have to put in a TU-2. The TU-2s start at 5.7 and end up at 6.3, so therefore if you're running a ground lineup of 5.3, you don't really want to put in something that's higher. So therefore, even though you've got a really good lineup at 5.7, you know, T-3485, IS-2, and then once again either the Type 65, or you can throw in the TV, the KV-220, KV-122, KV-2s is 6, and you know, all of these wonderful machines, or something like an ISU-122, you can at 5.0 or 5.3 make a nice lineup with an attacker now. So it's as simple as that. The Su-6 AM-42, I've had a lot of fun with it, and I also had a lot of the fun with the other one as well, the other Su-6, but I just never really made a video on it because I didn't really see a lot of hype about it. But I think it is worth making this video just to let you know what this thing is capable of, and it is capable of a lot, and you have to hunt them down in the first 5 or 10 minutes, unless you want the game to be basically turned on its head within 2 or 3 minutes, and you're gonna experience that ticket bleed and you're gonna get taken out. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.